So, welcome to Wasabi Interviews. Today, I'm joined by one of our writers who happens to be in Japan, right? Micah Wright.
Hello,
So, where
everyone.
in Japan are you, Micah?
I'm down in Tokushima, on the island of Shikoku. So
Yeah.
it's about a 2 hour bus ride south of Kobe, or about
Right.
3 hour bus ride south of Osaka, on a separate island. So on the island of
Mhm.
Shikoku, we're not on the mainland.
Yeah, yeah. I visited Shikoku once, and I remember there's a very famous suspension bridge that connects Okayama to Kagawa, I believe, right? Is that correct?
Okay, so yeah, you have the most famous bridge actually is Naruto,
Right.
which connects Awajishima Island, which is kind of
Oh,
like the segue island, if you will, in between the
uh,
mainland and Shikoku.
yeah.
And one point, I don't know if it's still the case or not. It was, I believe, the fourth longest suspension bridge in the world.
Right,
Um,
right.
and there are a lot of whirlpools that swirl around
Mhm.
underneath. And Awajishima Island itself is just gorgeous farmland, a lot of sake breweries,
Yeah.
lots of seaweed cultivation, stuff like that. But yeah, so we're basically, after you cross over Awajishima Island from the mainland, take that
Mhm.
bridge, then you hit Naruto, and Tokushima is just right outside of Naruto.
Oh, okay, okay. So, well, just so people are aware, your article is in the current issue of Wasabi, which is this one, and it's all about your night bus experience.
Yeah, adventures
You had
on the
a
night.
crazy trip on a night bus from Nagoya, right?
Yeah, that was a while back,
Mhm.
before I had kids and all that. My wife and I had
Yeah.
kids, and it was a pretty insane adventure. I've pretty much every night bus ride I've taken
Uh-huh.
has been pretty much par for the course. Everyone gets on, everyone dozes off. Some people stay
Yeah.
up on their phones or whatnot, but it's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
That adventure was absolute anarchy. And,
It's a
and,
really
and
fun story.
it is. I to this day I'm amazed. In retrospect, I'm pretty amazed that it all happened, but I don't know if
Uh,
I'd ever want to do it again because I didn't really get a lot of sleep. Kind of
yeah.
the purpose of having taking a night bus, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, an overnight, like well, not quite. I don't know. Could you call it a sleeper bus? Some of the seats like really recline back, but the cheaper ones don't really recline all that much, right?
Depends on not always, but it
Yeah,
typically depends on the bus you charter. So there are
yeah,
certain ones that really do recline almost completely and that are nicer, roomier, and whatnot. And then there are other ones that are that aren't as swanky, so to speak.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've been on a nice one and a cheap one from Osaka, and on the cheap one, I think I ended up catching a cold like the next day. It was just very uncomfortable and not a good experience. Um, so where are you originally from, Micah?
Originally, I was born and raised in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Hmm.
Um, I was I'm a farm boy at heart, raised out
Hmm.
on a farm, and stayed there for most of my childhood.
Hmm.
Lived in Colorado for a few years when my parents split, but then ultimately ended up back in Alabama, and where I went to school, University of Alabama, and
Hmm.
that's where I met my wife, who's
Oh,
from
okay.
Tokushima, who's originally from
Gotcha.
Tokushima,
Hmm.
and then after school was over, we both graduated from University of Alabama.
Hmm.
We moved to Cincinnati,
Okay.
um, due to my wife's career, and or the job that she landed outside of college. And I wasn't very interested in getting divorced, so I decided to tag along. So I ended up in Cincinnati as well, and
Yeah.
that's where we were for better part of 11 years until summer last year when we moved here to Tokushima.
Gotcha. So, but before then, you had already been to Japan a bunch of times, right?
Oh yeah, I'd have to go back through my old passport, but yeah, I would
Mhm.
say probably close to 20 times in 16 years or more.
Right.
Back when flights were really inexpensive,
Yeah.
we would go sometimes 3 times a year because it
Oh,
was,
okay.
a lot of times around, if you book it well in advance and you time it right, round trip tickets were still $500 or so,
Right, right.
and so back in the early 2000s, yeah, we 2004, 2005, 2006, yeah, we would travel to Japan pretty regularly.
Mm. And so what was your first time going to Japan? How was that experience?
The first time I went to Japan was 2004. This is
Okay.
summer of 2004. And I had never been. I didn't
Mhm.
really know anything about the language. My wife and I just started dating about 4 months, 5 months prior.
Okay.
And all I knew was that I told her, I said, if you, because she was at the University of Alabama for just 2 semesters. And I
Mhm.
told her, I said, you end up going back to Japan and I stay here, yeah, I don't do long distance relationships, plain and simple.
Right.
And I told her, I said, you're just too good to let go of. What would your family think about if you brought a white boy home? And she goes, ooh, I don't know about grandma, but my parents might be okay with it. So,
Uh,
so she basically called up her mom, and her mom said, oh, you want to bring an American boy home? Show me a picture. And you can, oh, he's cute. Yeah, you can bring him. No problem. Yeah, sure. So essentially, her mom gave it okay. Dad was like, I don't know, but okay, if, I'll meet him at least.
uh-huh.
So, so I took a 1 year hiatus from college. Actually, I
Oh,
was getting
wow.
burned out on my, I was getting burnt out in school,
Mhm.
and I needed a break. And everyone said I would, it's like, oh, you're going to drop out, you're never going to finish. But that's not my style.
Mhm.
I came back and I finished, got my degree. But it was an adventure. I knew arigato. I knew doitashimashite. I knew to
Uh-huh.
bow, take off my shoes.
Yeah.
I knew shikai no mado ga aitemasu, which is your open.
Please explain
So
that one.
basically your fly is open. In case you see someone with their zipper open, you got to tell them. It's a polite
Yeah.
thing to do, which is
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
because Shikai no Mado literally translates to your social window. So
Yeah.
it's very fun Japanese. I'm like, wait, your social window is your zipper?
Yeah.
Wow, like different way of saying like I'm going out to be social, socializing.
Yeah, your window into society, I guess.
It's really a very fun thing. But anyway, so
Yeah.
that was I had very limited knowledge of the language. I
Uh-huh.
never studied Japanese. I you know I just knew that I wanted to keep dating this girl.
Mhm.
And I said, and I've got some money saved up. It was already too late in the semester to do an exchange program, or else I would have done that, a study abroad program. So I was like, well, I'll just burn up my savings and go. And I'm glad that I went. My wife was able to, she's 2 years my senior, so she was able to finish up at Hiroshima University.
Oh.
So that's where we stayed. I was able to um, refocus on what really mattered for me when I came back to school at University of Alabama. So that's when I changed my direction. While I was in Japan, I shifted from working exclusively on graphic design, and I came back and I focused on an interdisciplinary degree in craft brewery brand management. So
Interesting.
I took my graphic design focus and I honed in on beer labels, six-pack designs, bottle caps, pretty much all
Mhm.
the marketing and promotional material necessary to promote a craft brewery.
Mhm.
And of course, I was home brewing at the time too, so that worked out. So that 1 year hiatus in Japan really helped me out in retrospect. It didn't help me out financially,
Mhm. Yeah.
but in terms of relationship wise, as well as schooling wise, and being able to focus, it changed everything. It really helped. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Fell in love with the culture. Fell in love with the food. Fell in love with. I'm a country boy, so it's just gorgeous, out in the countryside.
Yeah.
So I love it. Japan's, you got mountains, you got ocean, you got hot springs, you've got pretty much everything you need. It's all right there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but that 1 year really was an eye opener for an Alabama boy who really
Mhm.
didn't had never really experienced the world. So it was. I'm glad I did it.
Oh,
I do
that's
it again.
awesome. So, Tokushima, could you give us a little idea of what Tokushima is like? Because I know it's one of the least populated prefectures, right? It's pretty
Yeah,
off the beaten path, I guess you could say.
yeah, because we're off the away from we're not connected to the mainland. There's no
Mhm.
Shinkansen here. Rail
Yeah.
is all pretty much all the rail is actually diesel, not electric.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like if you ever seen the movie Totoro, it's kind of like Totoro. It's all farmland and countryside and whatnot. But it's still population wise. Tokushima is similar to Cincinnati in population, actually. You
Oh,
just don't have any major ball teams, really. You don't have any tall skyscrapers, things like that. So population wise, it's still decent size. It's just kind of spread out.
right.
Um, but Tokushima is known for awa odori, which is Japan's most famous and largest traditional dance festival, where this city of a few 100,000 suddenly swells by millions
Mhm.
for a few days in the dead heat of summer. So when
Right.
most people think of the city of Tokushima, they think of awa odori and the dance festival, which is kind of like it's like the carnival of Japan. People eating and
Right.
drinking and dancing in the streets, and a whole week of partying. It's a lot of fun. Um, but as far as what it's like outside of that, it's really peaceful. It's that slow pace to life, complete opposite of Tokyo and Osaka.
Yeah.
Life moves a lot slower here, which some people would find boring. I find refreshing.
Mm.
Um, and and of course it's a lot of really good seafood, amazing farmland,
Mm.
amazing hiking and hot springs, some excellent surfing, real nice sandy beaches,
Oh,
a little bit
really?
south of here. Yeah. It's funny, I took some my wife and I went down there and brought the family last October before it got cold.
Mm.
And we were able to head down to the beach down there, and I took photos, and everyone's like, "Wow, where is this? Is this California?" I'm like, "No, this is this is Tokushima, not
Oh,
California. Excuse me, like Hawaii. Like some of the beaches
oh,
are really, really white, really sandy, palm trees
really?
everywhere, key limes and sugar
Uh-huh.
cane and all sorts of stuff. So it's very tropical in that sense.
Mm.
Actually, if you put your finger on where I'm from in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, on a
Mhm.
globe and you rotate the globe, you'll find that Tokushima and Tuscaloosa, Alabama are like, pretty much on the same what is it, longitudinal path.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, so that gives you an idea of how warm and tropical and humid it is down here. But
Mhm.
a lot of produce. If you look at the food provided to other areas of southern Japan, a lot of it comes from the actual island of Shikoku,
Mm.
and it's which is great. I mean, we eat extremely well, and it's not super expensive to live
Yeah,
here because it's
definitely.
so yeah, it's surprisingly affordable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So speaking of food, in an article that we have in the works that hopefully will come out in the near future, you discuss that you hunt and you do barbecue with what you hunt.
That's great.
So yeah, yeah. So could you tell me like so what are you barbecuing? Like, do you have equipment over there? Did you like import it? Like, how do you what do you do? How do you do it?
So what I barbecue is like that.
Mhm.
Venison, a
Yeah,
lot of deer meat, as well as wild boar.
yeah,
We in this part of Japan, most of Japan actually,
yeah.
much like America, a lot of Japan is just overrun with wild game. So you've got a lot of feral hogs and deer galore. And it's actually, in certain ways, it's worse than America because there aren't a lot of hunters here anymore.
Yeah.
Unlike America, where hunting is very much the thing that dad gets out with the kids on the
Sure.
weekends, and everyone goes hunting in the hunting cabin, and it's very much a family thing. The younger generations are not so interested in hunting here. Part of it being that it's very difficult to get firearms.
Hmm.
So getting a gun isn't. It's not like America where you got a 2 week waiting period. In Japan,
Right.
you got to wait a long time if you ever even get one.
Yeah.
Um, you also can't get a crossbow here, so you can't hunt with a bow. You can get a trapping license, which is a little bit easier to get. But it's, for those who actually do enjoy hunting, it's not really enjoyable. So because there are fewer hunters and there's a general disinterest by the younger generations in hunting, the animals, the wild animals they're overpopulated. They're everywhere, and they're destroying a good bit of the farmland. So, I was able to meet up with my mother-in-law's friend. She actually ended up going to junior high school, I believe, or elementary school. Maybe they even went to elementary school together. Anyway, she introduced me to him, and we immediately became friends. And he's in his 60s, and he's actually an award-winning hunter. He's back in the 80s and early 90s. He was ranked as the third best wild pheasant hunter in all of Japan, based on how many kills he made a year and stuff like that. But he's incredibly talented. He hunts with dogs, and a crew of other hunters that are all grandpas. And I told him, I said, hey, I would love to tag along and learn how you hunt, because I'm a farm boy from Alabama. I've been on quite a few hunts in my day, and I've had helped best deer and all that. So I was like, yeah, man, I'd love to see how you guys do it. So he agreed, and I just kept tagging along every weekend. If I was available, I'd go with them during hunting season. And I found out that they were what they killed, they would let rot. They unless it's a wild boar, they'd always process and chop up and dole out amongst the hunting group, because it's good eating. The venison, they didn't want anything to do with it. They were like, nah, it's really tough meat and it's not super fatty and all this other stuff. And I told them, I said, you guys just don't know how to are cooking it right. You got to. And they said, what? No, like, how about the legs? Like, venison shakes. Like, no, we feed that to the dogs. And I'm going, wow, that's a freaking waste. How about this? Y'all give me the meat. Okay. I'll process. I'll debone it. I'll do everything I've got to, and I'll barbecue it, and I'll let you taste it. And I'll show you what American style smoked barbecue tastes like. Because before we moved to Japan last summer, we shipped over a bunch of stuff from America via a shipping company. And one of the things that I packed in was a brand new, unused, in its original box, American size smoker.
Nice.
From Alabama.
That's forethought right there.
Yeah. Well, it's because I know I can't get them over here. So I was like, man, I'm just, there's a Memorial Day sale. And I said, screw it, man. I got to buy a dishwasher anyway and a bunch of other stuff. I might as well just get the smoker now and just pack it in. So I bought the smoker on a Memorial Day sale for a hell of a good price, and threw it in the shipping container and sent it over. And then lo and behold, my friend Hasebe-san, or as I like to call him, my mentor at this point, he heats his whole house with firewood. He's got a wood burning stove, and he has all these rough cuts of wood that he doesn't want or can't use. He likes the larger chunks because they burn longer. And I was like, man, what do you do with all these little rough cuts? He's like, I chip them up and use them to, in the lawn and stuff like that. And I said, well, mind if I have some? So it's all pear. So I get all this Japanese pear that's been cured already for smoking. So I use some sakura as well, and walnut, Japanese walnut. So I smoke meats on it, and I marinate all of my wild game on koji, fermented rice, to soften it up and remove some gamey texture and taste. It's slow smoked, old school Alabama style wild game barbecue, and all these all these hunters, I bring it, bring some in my bento box, and they're just like, what? You make this happen? Crazy. We would never consider eating this kind of meat. And that just goes to show you, the power of like slow and low in the smoked barbecue. It'll make the toughest meat super tender and flavorful.
Man, that sounds so good.
It is really good. I've got a whole bunch of followers and friends and people requesting more barbecue all the time, and it's it's something that I don't know if I'd ever want to open a restaurant, but I
Mhm.
definitely interested in having like cultural culinary classes at some point.
Yeah.
Some seminars where I showed Japanese people like how in America we do barbecue and why we do it a certain way and why it's always
Mhm.
served with pickles and and things like that. Um, and yeah, it's been a great experience. And actually, if you look over here,
Mhm.
that deep freezer right there is
Yeah.
just packed full of venison
Oh man.
and wild hog. And then I've
Yeah.
got this fridge here, and inside of this, I've got bacon curing right now. Got some wild hog bacon.
Nice.
Got some venison down underneath that's thawing out. That's getting ready to get all the silver skin removed and
Yeah.
it's been deboned, and then get ready for the smoker for this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's the benefits of living in rural Japan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably have close to 300 pounds, I would say, of
Wow.
wild game sitting in that freezer right now, and it's
Yeah.
didn't cost me a dime, man. You know,
Yeah.
so it's been incredibly beneficial. It's been a great learning experience, and
Mhm.
I've also built some connections and some friendships that are that are beyond my wildest dreams. I absolutely love it, and it's great hiking too. Because I mean, when we go hunting,
True.
we are way up in the mountains. We
Right.
are. I mean, it's pretty dangerous.
Hmm.
A lot of these climbs, you really have to watch your footing, or it's down the cliff. Um,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't change it for the world. It's
Yeah.
every weekend when during hunting season, I want to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that must be quite an experience for the local people too, because like I don't know if I've ever had American style barbecue in Japan. Like you just don't see it cooked that way, right?
No, not at all. It's
Yeah.
all yakiniku. It's all,
Yeah.
thinly sliced, seared,
Hmm.
and dipped in the sauce and eaten. Unlike American barbecue, where it's low and slow for hours and hours on end, big chunks of meat that you
Hmm.
just slather the sauce on, or don't sauce at all and just go with a rub. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't do rubs either. There isn't
Yeah.
dry rubbed meat is really not a thing.
Yeah. 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 Oh, that's really cool. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about was so aside from your cooking, you also are really involved with writing about cars and photography. I mean, I think up until Wasabi, you had mentioned that you had just mainly been focusing on doing writing for like car related publications.
Yeah, I've been an automotive journalist for
Hmm.
gee willikers, let me think. 2008, I
Hmm.
believe, was when
Right.
I first started writing
Hmm.
for automotive publications.
Hmm.
And to this day, I still do contribute to various publications as a freelancer.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, I was raised on Legos, and Legos eventually evolved into cars, and
Right.
I customized pretty much everything I can get my hands on, including my body. But I'm all about cars for the most part. I really am. I'll never be. I'll never be. I don't really have any inclination to be. The most brilliant, automotive journalist of all time and know everything about every little automaker and every little engine component and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I'm more of a story guy. I love
Yeah.
hearing the story behind the build, why a vehicle is designed a certain way, things like that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
test drove and reviewed cars for
Cool.
4 years.
Hmm.
Before we moved to Japan, I had a stack of Monronis. Those are the sales sheets that you get with a card. It shows how it's
Okay.
optioned out.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, it's called a Monroney. And I had
Hmm.
a stack that was all close to phone book size of
Hmm.
Monronis, hundreds of cars that I drove over the years. Because it used to be I'd
Hmm.
get a car every week.
Hmm.
I would arrange with an automaker through a third party
Hmm.
company to have vehicles dropped off at my house in Cincinnati. And so for years and years, it was every week, every Wednesday or Tuesday, I'd have
Wow.
a car dropped off and the old one picked up. And I would
Uh-huh.
drive it for a week and test it out and review it and take photos and all that. So,
That's
uh,
pretty fun.
yeah, it was a ton of fun. It was still called
Yeah.
work for a reason,
Sure. Sure. Hmm.
walk down and work on typing everything up when you're done.
Hmm.
And of course, in winter in Cincy, when you realize you got to go out and 12-degree weather and do a photo shoot of a car and wipe all the salt off of it. You're just like, it's not fun.
Right.
Yeah, I still wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Like I read a few of your articles, and you also did quite a few like Japanese cars, a lot of modified like cars in Japan, I guess, or where were a lot of those?
Yeah. So I have been writing for Super Street for the better part of the past 2 years, I believe, as well as for Honda Tuning Magazine. And that publication is underneath the Motor Trend group, those two publications. And actually Honda Tuning Magazine was the first publication that I actually wrote for and contributed to, and I still do contribute to them. Back in 2008 again, I believe. So, and of course, Honda Tuning Magazine and Super Street, it's pretty much all aftermarket all the time. So custom cars are what we do. And being that I love custom things, just a good fit for me. So some cars are from America, some are from Japan. I've written features on cars from the Philippines and Thailand. So I'm kind of in the motherland, so to speak, for custom cars. So it's kind of beneficial being over here in Japan and being able to, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's just making sure that making sure that the cars are finished. A lot of them are custom, they're constantly under construction. Some of them.
And I think in like somewhat more rural Japan, you see them more often, right? Because in the big cities, like everybody just takes a train, so it's kind of harder to drive a car around.
Yeah. Well, also on top of that too, out here in the countryside, in the farmlands, the roads are a lot more fun.
Right.
You get these awesome mountain passes. You get these great drives. We're in the city, like you're a car guy. You've got a car. What are you going to do for fun? You're going to be in stop and go traffic, and pay out the ass for tolls. You're going to have to, it's just not fun driving. But out here in the farmland, out in the countryside, I mean, if I went 15 minutes that direction, there's a phenomenal road, which up until last week was completely enshrined in sakura blossoms, because there are cherry trees that grow over the road, hang over the road, and it's just a gorgeous drive. It's a lot of motorcyclists love it, and out here in the farmland, you've got a pretty big car culture.
Right. Has anybody ever taken you drifting?
I have been drifting. I'm by no means a drifter. It's not something that I would ever want to pursue because, well, let's face it, financial gain from drifting is minimal.
It's just burning tires.
And cash. I've back when I was getting cars regularly, it was a lot of fun to turn off traction control in a Chevy Camaro SS and head out to a big empty parking lot and just smoke tires and have fun. But as far as like riding along with professional drifter and whatnot and doing hot laps, so to speak, and I've done that. It's I prefer hot laps on a track.
Sure.
That's to me, that's just more exhilarating and far less tire smoke blowing in through the window.
Right.
Drifting's, it's not as popular here as it once was, but it's still
definitely, I think it was like 10, maybe like 15, 20 years ago. It was maybe around the peak perhaps, but lately you don't hear about it so much. So last thing that I want to ask you about, how are things going on in relation to the pandemic over there in Tokushima? Are things pretty calm over there?
For the most part, yes. People have been cautious since word got out months ago. And in Japan, even when there's not a pandemic, a lot of people wear masks. In winter especially, but schools are closed. They have been.
Oh, that's good.
since
Hmm.
early March, and
Hmm.
they reviewed it last week, I believe, to see if they were going
Hmm.
to reopen, and they decided against it. The government, local government, did decide against
Hmm.
it. So schools remain closed. Hence, my daughter walking by here just a moment ago to check out the window to see what the weather looks like. Um,
Yeah.
and so kids are home, which makes me daddy daycare. Being
Right.
that I'm a freelance journalist, I'm able to write at home and keep kids and stuff, which is a bit of a juggling act. I
Yeah.
sometimes have to ask for an extension just because it's, when you got a bunch of 7-year-olds running around the house
Yeah.
and they have their cousins and stuff here, then it's not so easy.
It's tough to
But
concentrate. Yeah.
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But there also, let's see. It's not like a mandatory shutdown like most of America right now.
Hmm.
Um, but I wouldn't doubt. I wouldn't be surprised if it moves to that shortly.
Yeah.
Um, uh, People are, a lot of people are distancing one another. Like right now, like I
Hmm.
can't see my mentor. He messaged me last
Hmm.
night. He said, "Hey, I would love to meet up this weekend and work on some projects and stuff and
Hmm.
whatnot." He said, "But right now, he's like, I'm not seeing anyone. I'm not. We're not risking anything, and we don't want to, risk getting anyone sick if
Sure.
we have." So, um, a lot of people are doing the right thing
That's
and
good.
staying away from one another. But there is no mandatory stay at home. You can't go out quarantine,
Right. Right.
um, for now at least.
Yeah.
Um,
The tricky, like, the good thing about rural Japan is that there's less people, but then the tricky thing is that generally the age range tends to be higher, right? Usually it's older people living in the rural areas.
yep.
So, yeah, got to be a little careful about that. But
Risk. Who are far
yeah,
more at risk. A lot of the older generations, much like hunters,
right.
um, they're the farmers,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
suddenly your farmers are all sick or have passed
Hmm.
away. Who's going to be cultivating the food and providing it, making sure
Hmm.
it gets to market?
Yeah.
Which again, that's not something a lot of people have been talking about, but it's something that's constantly in the back of my head because I look out my window and I see all these farmers,
Hmm.
tending to the land, and I'm like, hey, a lot of these guys are over 70,
Definitely.
and so, and being that they're at the highest risk, makes me a little concerned for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Well,
I'd
I
like
mean,
this
mhm.
part is still somewhat normal. A lot of restaurants have started doing carry out only.
Good.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh, but still, there's
Mhm.
there's quite a bit of social interaction, so to speak.
Yeah.
Or, so it's just
Yeah, I
only
think
time will.
things are moving a little bit, or yeah, quite a bit slower in Japan, but the trend tends to be towards kind of getting things a little bit more strict, and the government seems to starting to take it more seriously, but it's still kind of moving along slowly.
Yeah, no,
So
it's in my
mm,
opinion, it's entirely too slow.
yeah, it's concerning. It's concerning, definitely.
Yeah, and being that Japan already has been, since last autumn has been experiencing a down
Yes.
due to the downturn in the economy due to
Yeah.
the raise in taxes.
Yeah.
The economy's hurting, so which is another reason why the prime minister doesn't want to shut things down because Japan's already hurting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's
so
tough.
we'll again, much like the rest of the coronavirus, we'll just have to wait and see
Wait
how
and
things.
see. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, on the bright side, at least things are at least people do what they're told here. Like
Yeah.
when there's a something comes out and the government says stay home,
Mhm.
don't do this, do this. People listen. In America, people are like, "Oh man, I felt like going out for a 6-pack of beer and this, that, and the other." And they're like, "What are
Yeah.
you?" Like I see all these posts from my friends back in America, and they're
Yeah. It's
and,
worrying.
and they're just they're furious because they're like, "Man, the more people that goof around and don't stay
The
home,
longer it's gonna take. Yeah.
yeah. So you want the quarantine to end? Stay home."
Yep. Yep.
um,
Yep. Yep.
Again, so I'm if things do get to that point, I'm pretty confident that the Japanese will actually do what they're told and actually
Yeah.
respect the law.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and what's the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, and because it's not so crowded here,
Hmm.
the distancing is a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Social distancing is far easier to do, and also on top of that too, it's if you want to social distance here, you have infinite amount of options in as regard to like still being outside and doing things outdoors and not being able to interact with and not coming into contact with humans. There's there are a lot of outdoor activities to be done that'll so you don't get stir crazy, basically.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, in Tokyo, if you're like in a tiny apartment and the only way you can get anywhere is like using the train, I mean, that's a tough situation to be in. But
thinking about like, how do you get out of your apartment? Oh, I've got to go into an elevator.
True.
A tiny little elevator where everyone has pushed every button with their hands. It's not my idea of a good time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing all right. Like you said, just gotta wait and see. One of the fun things of my job is not just like getting to interview people, but getting to meet the writers that I work with, and it's been really fun, working on different articles with you. And I know we've got some other ideas, so hopefully we can get those out. So yeah, hopefully. Is there anything that you want to let people know about, like if they want to follow you on, whatever, Instagram or something like that? Anything you want to let people know?
Yeah. So as far as if you want to see what my barbecue looks like or what I'm cooking, and follow me on Instagram at Awa Barbecue. That's AWA_BBQ. Awa is the old name for Tokushima. It's the original name. Awa is, many know, is the Japanese word for water. A lot of rivers here. But so Awa Barbecue, AWA_BBQ.
Awesome.
And all things that don't have to do with barbecue or food, for the most part, you can find me on Instagram at the letter N is in Nashville, the number 2, followed by the word beer.
Cool. Nice. All right. So barbecue and beer.
I was gonna say I was a home brewer for a long time, and I just let it stick.
Yeah. Do you still brew in Japan?
No, I don't. It's for one, it's illegal here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's not, and so equipment's expensive as all hell if you do want to start brewing, and getting ingredients is incredibly tough and all that. And on top of that too, I mean, I'm in the land of really good sake. I can get a lot of good rich that's made right up the road, man, and it's far superior to anything you can get back in America. So I've kind of made the transition from beer to sipping good sake. Not all the time, but sometimes when I'm barbecuing, you just got to have a beer. It's not something I could foresee myself getting back into. I haven't brewed since I had a child. I just don't have time and interest at this point.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll include the links in the description and all that stuff. So if you guys want to check out his barbecue and his photos, then And like I said, in the latest issue, in the current issue, you can find his article and hopefully much more in the near future. Thanks, Micah.
Hey, I appreciate your time. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.